Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Now, as I'm sure some of you have noticed, my hair has grown out somewhat since when you last saw me, and this is because of lockdown and everything. So today I've decided before I get it cut, I would experiment with some 18th century men's hairstyles. So tune in and stay tuned to see what I can do with my long, luscious, languid lockdown locks. Quick disclaimer, I am not a hairstylist, I do not know what I'm doing. I've tried this once before a wee while ago, and I thought I'd do a video before I get it cut. Yeah, and I'll try and talk to you about some of the history surrounding it as well. So, first stage is I'm going to brush out my hair. So I blow dried it, which is a lot more than I would normally do. And as I'm sure some of you have noticed, I'm also sitting on the floor because what I'll be doing today is using a lot of this stuff, which is hair powder. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how I made that in a second. And it's a dust basically, and I don't want it to get everywhere. Excuse me. First, I have my hair momentum. This is some that I got from Little Bits cosmetic company, who are good friends of mine as well, so that's great.
Hair pomatum or pomade is made from rendered animal fats, usually tallow or mutton, and is still commonly used in soaps and other cosmetics. As with modern products, historical hair pomade was generally scented with clove, rose, lavender and other scents, even cinnamon. This one is clove, and it smells absolutely wonderful.
So you want to keep rubbing it in from root to tip. Now my hair is, for me, very long, to the point where I can actually put it in my mouth, and that was weird. Very, very strange indeed. Something I'm not really used to.
Now myself, not being a cat, do not wish to eat my own hair, but you do you. In order to apply the hair momentum, you first need to warm it up, so get a fair-sized glob and rub it into the palm of your hand to soften the momentum. This will also begin to release the scent. You need to work the momentum into your hair from the roots to the tips until your hair looks damp, or until you have a mental breakdown due to the trauma of remembering that you were once a greasy teenager.
So now this bit's going to get really messy. So I've got this lovely 18th century style handkerchief from Penny River, and this is going to, probably not help much because I can't move my arms very well. So let's see how this goes.
I don't know much about hair, so I consulted the book 18th Century Beauty by American Duchess, which gives you recipes for making hair products, makeup and caps, as well as doing a variety of ladies' hairstyles, and of course, how to powder your hair.
So that's what I'm going to do. I've got a little makeup brush that I completely stole from someone, and I'm gonna do the thing now. Wish me luck.
Powdering hair in the 18th century was as messy and dusty an affair as you can really get. Because of this, it was done in very well-ventilated rooms, in what are known as garricks, which were rooms at the top of houses with big windows to allow for light and, above all, most importantly, ventilation. Because without it, well, you can see what it gets like. You would either have this done at a hairdresser or at home if you could afford to have your servants trained on how to dress your hair, as well as the latest fashions. Fashion in the 18th century changed several times a year, depending on how fashion conscious you were. The same applies today. This is also reflected in hairstyles and was often satirised, the extremes of course being the macaronis of the 1770s, who either padded out their hair with hairpieces or what were referred to as toupees, or wore rather expensive wigs.
Bit too bouncy.
The reason these men wearing outrageous fashions were called macaroni was because the young and well-to-do had come back from touring Europe and brought back interesting fashions as well as a love for Italian pasta. Hence why they were called macaroni. The use of the term macaroni also comes up in the well-known children's rhyme Yankee Doodle Dandy, making fun of that fashion.
So now I've got my hair really very powdered. It has aged me. Well, this did absolutely nothing. Everything, like I'm not going to show you, but everything is covered in a fine layer of this stuff, hair powder. So I made this using cornstarch, orris root, and a few drops of rose water. It's fascinating, really. It's like baking a cake on your head. Now I want to section off my hair, he says with great confidence. Yeah! Having never done it before, really. Okay, I want to section my hair.
Now, of course, in the 18th century, they didn't have electricity, so used iron curling tongs which were heated on top of a brazier filled with hot coals so that the tongs themselves wouldn't get covered in soot. I, however, do not have such a device, and as you can see, it's a little bit of a struggle. I have since realised that a pair of hair tongs may have made creating these curls, which were called buckles during the period, far easier, and I'm sure would create a far more finished and clean look. But I'm left with frizzy flyaway strands of hair that really don't wish to conform. But
now it's time to tackle the second one. Let's see how that goes. Now, take that bit out. Right. Now let's section out this bit.
back then, as now, I'm sure it was quite tricky to do your own hair yourself, because I found it quite difficult working backwards and in a mirror, as well as trying to make it viewable for you guys. I'm not quite sure how successful that was.
There we go, I seem to have fixed that one, so let's see how this one goes.
Some of you may be wondering what the wooden stick or cylinder is that I'm using. Well, in the 18th century, tapered sticks were used to gauge the size of the buckles or curls to the desired fashion. The American Duchess book, however, recommends large knitting needles. I, however, have and had neither, and had to use my Georgian cylinder ruler from my antique Georgian writing slope. So there's that. Sometimes you just have to work with what you've got. But really, I suppose it's more fun that way. I decided that because my fringe wouldn't be long enough to get tied down by the wig bag at the back, I would instead create a bit of volume at the front. This in fact isn't too dissimilar in design to a grey wig that I own, and is a really interesting way of utilising different parts of my hair to create different shapes. And there you have it! The main part of dressing my 18th century hair is finished. I just now need to apply more powder to finish the look. This is an antique wig powderer, which is basically a set of small bellows. When I bought it, there was still powder inside. I consulted my dear friend Abby Cox to determine what the powder might be, as you know, some historical cosmetics can be very dangerous. However, we determined by the smell that it was probably orris root and starch powder. This is, however, a guess, so if I keel over in the next few days, you'll know why. Having replaced the cork, I realised that because of its age, the Wig Powderer was expelling more ominous clouds of potentially nefarious particles from the main cavity, as opposed to making its way down the nozzle and onto my delicately sculpted coiffure. So I decided to bring in the brush again for some more heavy-duty dusting. The choice to grow out and style your own hair instead of wearing a wig was a matter of personal choice, fashion and expense. After all, you don't have to pay for hair that you can just grow yourself. There were no hard and fast rules surrounding how a gentleman dressed his hair, but there was of course social convention and the prevailing fashions of the day. Most styles, either for natural hair or a wig, utilised a wig bag. This was a black silk bag which would hold the remaining hair as fashion dictates. They then became a symbol in English courtwear, and empty wig bags were attached to the back collar of coats. Here my shirt is fastened with a heart-shaped silver brooch, which was a fashionable practice and could be as plain as iron or diamond-encrusted gold. The same goes for my stock buckle. This is a pinchbeck example with a floral design, but plain brass buckles were given to soldiers. What goes up must come down. It is bittersweet to take apart the hair I spent hours in front of the camera creating. However, this demonstrates the more unstructured and naturalistic hairstyles of the latter 18th century, and I think this messy mop looks reminiscent of William Pitt the Younger. Let me know if you'd be interested in a video creating sort of other hairstyles from the 18th century. Believe it or not, but the oils and powder are very comfortable to wear, and every time I have done this, my hair has been beautifully nourished, as well as smelling fantastic, which comes in useful with so many horse-drawn carriages in the streets in the 18th century. This time, without the camera, I put it back to how it was in about 15 minutes or so. I think with more practice, I could possibly get quicker. I'm now doubting if I should cut my hair at all. What do you think?